Welcome back to Predicting the NFL with Mickey G. It is yours truly, and unfortunately, we did exactly what I said we shouldn't do, and that is continue our one-game drop. Week 1 went 12-4, then 11-5, 10-6, and 9-7, unfortunately, last week, which I am blaming all on the Packers being unable to beat the Cowboys and getting a tie because they are stupid. So yeah, last week went 9-7, got the game of the week correct. Eagles were able to hold on against the Buccaneers. It was a close one, though. Almost another game-winning drive for Baker. Upset we got correct, it was the Jags, and they held on to their end of the bargain. They did go to San Francisco and beat the Niners, which was beautiful to see. However, our crapfest was incorrect because Justin Fields and the running back room, besides Breece Hall, decided to fumble the ball away to the other team, which got them a loss. Jersey team was successful. The Texans did get their first win, and it was over the Titans, which was beautiful to see, and they were my pick, so that's another pick in that spot. We are now 42-22 on the season, 2-2 in games of the week, 2-2 in upsets, 1-3 in crap fests. Teams are 3-1, and my picks are as well in Jersey games. Historically, in week 5, we are 51-35, which is not particularly great. We are 1-4 in games of the week, 2-3 in upsets, 4-2 in crap fests, and Jersey teams are 2-0, and so are my picks. Historically, the best week we've had in week 5 is 10-4. So very beatable, very achievable. That's what we're aiming for. Because that'll get us back in that double-digit spot, and also, you know, it'd be nice to at least tie a record for a week. Now, you might be wondering, how did the betting go? It went not particularly great. So we had 142.91 after last week, and we are now down to 114.87. Now, that might seem like a pretty significant drop, and part of that is because 20 of that is on the Dodgers and the Red Sox to win the World Series. For all the big sporting events, I like to pick one from each side, one from each conference, and set them against each other and try to pick who it's going to be, but I put the actual World Series championship on both of them, so that potentially I can do a little cash out action and get both to basically give me all the money. So I've done pretty well, especially with hockey. I think the last 2 years I've had the same exact bets. It's been Florida and Edmonton, and they've done it the last 2 years. So that was pretty great, but hopefully that's going to do well. So we're actually more technically around like 134, so just kind of like an $8 or $9 drop, which isn't good, obviously, but not as bad as it looks with the numbers. Now, on our straight-up moneyline bets, we did go from $80 to $68.93, so that's not a nice drop, and we're going to try to clean that up a little bit this week, but hopefully we're going to be able to get some cash back. So let's move into our predictions on our Thursday night. Tonight we have the Niners at the Rams. The Niners have like their whole team on their injury report once again. Brock is out. Jawan Jennings is out. Ricky Pearsall is out. A lot of these guys are out, especially on the offensive side of things. So we might be seeing ourselves a CMC legendary game. We also get to see the Mac attack once more. Jones will be getting the start in Los Angeles. Rams, on the other hand, they're coming off a pretty solid win over the Colts. Close one that they almost lost, if not for Adonai Mitchell deciding he wanted to drop the ball before he got into the end zone, giving the Rams a touchback and the ball. Niners fans and even their team and the reporters are all still yapping about the Jags. So it seems they haven't moved on to the next game, whereas we're trying to see forward to the Chiefs. So they're not even focused on their divisional opponent here on this Thursday night. So I have a feeling they're going to get smacked. I think this is a big game for the Rams. A statement win probably incoming. Unfortunately, 2 losses will make the Jags win look not as good, but that's just because they're more dominant than people think they are. But that's a whole different conversation. So Rams I'm going for in this one on Thursday night. Next, we have the Vikings at the Browns. This is the second overseas matchup for the Vikings. They were in Ireland last week, and they lost to the Steelers. This week, they've got the Browns, so staying in that division. Here's the thing. They did stay, So that is a bit of an advantage. The Jags did it last year, I believe, and it worked out for them. It might have been 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago they did it, and they beat the Bills, and all the Bills fans were crying about it because they're like, oh, they had an extra week to be there. That's why they beat us. Or maybe just be better at the sport. I don't know. I think that gives them an advantage, and the Browns are not looking super hot after a beatdown last week against the Detroit Lions. Vikings, I think they almost were able to bring it back and beat the Steelers. Steelers were trying to give them that game, but they were unable to. They just couldn't lose in Ireland because that's their home away from home. But I think they can get this week. So Vikings getting this one. Next is the Raiders at the Colts. Both these teams taking the L last week. The Colts, their first of the season. The Raiders, their third of the season. Raiders are not looking great. However, Ashton Jennings did have his best game of his NFL career so far. He looked pretty good. Geno, on the other hand, was having a bit of a rough outing. Colts already mentioned how they lost that one. I don't think that's going to happen again. And the Colts still do look like a pretty good team. I mean, they played the Rams very competitively. So I think they should go out there and they should be able to get this one. Next is the Giants at the Saints. The exciting Whites are having a great grand old time after their first victory. Dak Stark gets his first start, and he played pretty well. Wasn't asked to do a whole lot, especially in the air game, but he did do well on the ground, along with his friend Cam Scattaboo, who had a nice, beautiful game there as well. The Saints, on the other hand, they got themselves their fourth loss in a row. They are struggling this season, and that's going to likely continue, and that's going to continue this week as the Giants get their second win in the Dart era. Next is the Cowboys at the Jets. Jets are 0-4 as well after a loss to Miami in that crap fest on Monday night. What a gross one. Cowboys, they decided they wanted to tie it up with the Packers. Got themselves a nice tie. Their offense looks fantastic. Their defense looks really, really bad. The Jets, on the other hand, they don't look great really on either side of the ball. They just look kind of bad in general. So the Cowboys, I think, are going to be able to outpace them here with their offense. Even if the Jets' offense looks a little better this week than in previous weeks, it's not going to totally matter. The Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys, are getting this one. Next, we have the Broncos at the Eagles. Eagles with a close one over the Buccaneers. Broncos with a big win over the Bengals. It was not particularly close in that matchup. Two solid teams here, but I think the difference here is the Eagles just look unbeatable. All right, they every week they have a little close game. You're like, oh, they almost lost it, but did they really? Did they really? All right, they were able to get a win this week while having Jalen Hurts complete 0 passes in the second half. Okay, if you're able to do that and win in a fashion that it never really looked like it was out of your hand, that's something, and that's kind of what they're doing this year. So I think the Eagles are winning this one. I don't see them losing anytime soon. I'm going to stop picking against them because it's hurting me, and I'm not doing that anymore. I was right last week, and I'm going to be right this week. Next is the Dolphins at the Panthers. This is our crap fest of the week, and the Dolphins are no stranger to the crap fest, and they usually do pretty well. They are 7-5 historically in these games, and my picks are 9-3, so I kind of know what they're doing, and they kind of know what they're doing. Panthers, on the other hand, are 1-1, and my picks are 0-2. Both these teams are stinky, both 1-3. Both wins against a divisional opponent that they kind of just own a little bit. However, the Dolphins did lose Tyreek Hill in that Monday night game, but they gained a Darren Waller who had a huge game and looked like how Jonnu Smith did last year. So that's kind of a big win for their offense. They have that other player to get the ball to, and I think that's going to look good for them like it did last week. So Dolphins, I think, are going to be able to take this one away. Next is the Texans at the Ravens. Ravens losing Lamar after a tough loss to the Chiefs. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. Not that there's anything negative about Cooper Rush, but the Texans coming off a nice win. All right, they smacked Titans 26-0 was the final score there. So defense played great, and I think it's going to continue to play great here. The defensive line is real strong, a lot of pressures. I think that's going to get to Cooper Rush and cause some problems. And Ravens defense is not great at all. It's actually quite bad. So that's going to allow that running back duo of Chubb and Marsh to do some damage, as well as Nico Collins is probably going to have a field day against that Ravens secondary. So I think the Texans have a real opportunity to get this one and kind of push back into that potential push for the playoffs here. So Texans, I think, are getting this one. Next is the Titans at the Cardinals. This is our jersey game of the week. As you can see, I got the Air McNair on. You might be thinking to yourself, Micah, you've only picked the team of the jersey so far this year. Is that going to continue? And the answer would be no. See, if we look at the records here, the Titans are 3-2 in jersey games, and my picks are 1-4. And if we ignore last week's success of the Texans winning, they're actually 3-1, and 0-4 was me. Didn't like that. So we're actually having a full-on assault against Titans. Also, is nice that this is the first Arizona Cardinals jersey game ever. They've never been in one, and that's kind of exciting. So we're going to actually go for them getting the win. I don't think Cardinals are particularly good, but they have shown that they're able to beat bad teams. They beat Carolina. They beat the Saints. They can continue that path is what I'm thinking. Going up against those rougher teams, they're able to get the wins gone, whereas the Titans are just bad. They're losing to everybody, and even their quarterback knows it. Cam Ward says they are ass.
I mean, if we keeping a buck right now, we ass.
Cardinals here. Now, I wouldn't be opposed if they did throw this one to the Titans. I obviously don't want the Titans to win any games, but if they were to beat someone, Cardinals, I would not be opposed to that because I do push that narrative of the Cardinals being bad. So that would be great. Next is the Buccaneers at the Seahawks. This is our upset of the week. Historically, Buccaneers are 5-5 in upsets, and my picks are 2-8. Seahawks are 1-1 in both spots. My picks and their wins. A lot of those were me probably picking against Tom Brady. Well, we don't have Tom Brady at QB anymore. We have Baker Mayfield, and he is that guy, and he's going to upset the Seahawks. That's what I'm picking. The Bucs are all in favor of the Seahawks. They're coming off some nice victories the last few weeks. Their defense is playing really well. The Buccaneers just had that tough loss to Philly, but I think the Buccaneers are the better team here. And Chris Godwin's back now full time. He's looking pretty good. Ibuka's looking great in that spot. Wirfs is back now on the offensive line. They're gonna have a full week with him and all that. So I think the Buccaneers are gonna look a little better this week. They are missing Bucky Irving, but that just means Rashad White and Sean Tucker need to step up into that role. So I think the Buccaneers got it. Next is the Lions at the Bengals. Got a little bit of a kitty cat matchup here. Lions are looking really good over the last few weeks. They had that first week loss to the Packers, and they've really bounced back pretty well from that. Bengals, on the other hand, Joe Burrow went down. They snuck that win against the Jags because of bad defensive play, but more so the refs screwing us. But they've looked terrible since then. Smacked 2 weeks in a row now from the Vikings and the Broncos, and I think that's going to continue. I expect a big game here from the Lions. Jameson Williams usually does well against really bad teams, and this is a perfect opponent for him to do that against. So I'd push a little bit for him maybe, and the rest of the Lions are going to score some touchdowns, so it should be a blowout. Next is Washington at Los Angeles, the Chargers. Both these teams with a tough loss last week. Washington taking that L to the Falcons. Penix said he needed to hit the guys when they're open, and he took that to heart. He had a pretty solid game for himself there and took it to him. Chargers, on the other hand, they lost to the exciting Whites in New York. I think they're going to bounce back a little faster than Washington will. Washington is bringing back Jan Daniels, but Terry McLaurin is still out. Chargers did lose Joe Alt. He is doubtful for this week, but that means they have a full week of practice with their second man up. I think that's going to help a little bit. Neither of these teams have looked great last week, but I think the Chargers are the better team. They have the better wins so far this season, so I think they can take this one. And next we have the Patriots at the Bills. Bills, I think, are still the #1 team in the league. Sometimes they give up little points to teams that they don't need to, but their offense is too overpowered right now. They got Cook and they got Allen. That running game is unstoppable, and obviously Allen can throw the ball around when he wants to. So not much stopping them there, even though the Patriots did have a big, nice victory last week over the Panthers, 42-13. My goodness. They smacked them really well, but they're going to run into a much better team here in Buffalo. And so, plus the Bills got their whiteout thing going on with their special jerseys this week, so it's going to be tough for them to get beat. So I'm going with Buffalo. And our last game, that's right, we only got 14 because we had a few teams on the bye. We have the Chiefs at the Jaguars. This is our game of the week. Jags are 1-2 in games of the week, and so are my picks, whereas the Chiefs are 9-5 and picks are 6-8. I think you know where I'm picking this one. I haven't picked against them all season. Why would I start now? I'm going with the Jaguars this one. I'm feeling good. Chiefs had themselves a nice, huge victory over the Ravens last week, a clean 37-20 victory that did not look particularly close. However, that was going up against that Ravens secondary, their whole defense, whereas the Jags, on the hand, they have potentially the best defense in the league. They have 13 takeaways already through 4 games, 3+ turnovers in each game. 3 in the first week, 3 in the second week, 3 in the third week, and they had 4 last week against San Francisco. They were flying around. Their defense is making me pumped. Travis Etienne had another 120 yards on the ground there. He's looking spicy. I like the Jags. I'm fired up for this season. They got it. They're going to get it, and it's going to be beautiful on Monday night in Duval, baby. So that's going to be a big one, big excitement there. And gosh, if they win this, I'm going to be pushing so many narratives. It's going to be magnificent. Our 4 teams on the bye are the Bears, Steelers, Packers, and Falcons. I usually yap about, this team's going to really need this bye. They all need the bye. Bye's never hurtful. However, early byes do kind of hurt a little bit. Packers, however, do need to figure out what they're doing on. Started out 2-0, looked like the best team in the NFL, and now they've crashed down to earth the last couple of weeks, so a little tough move for them. But exciting things in the NFL this week. I'm excited. I'm hoping to get some money. I'm hoping to get some picks right. I'm hoping to do a lot of things, and that Jags win on Monday night is going to be magnificent. But thanks for watching, and make sure to come back next week. Drop a like if you made it all the way through, because that makes people watch more, I think if you have a lot of likes, then they go, whoa, hey, people like this one. We'll send them more. So that'd be cool if you can do that for me. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next week.